started 6 months ago. A small thing, the kind of thing a wife notices but does not immediately name, because naming it makes it real. Thousands of people are watching this unfold in real time. Subscribe so you're not the last one to find out what's behind that door.
Good morning. Sit down, I'm almost done.
You were up late again.
Couldn't sleep. You know how I get sometimes.
Every night this week, Segun. Eat.
You have that early meeting. What time is your meeting? Is it the Abuja brief or the other one?
The Abuja brief.
What is it, honey? Are you all right? You seem quiet this morning. I'll be back in a bit. Go to sleep, don't wait up.
Where are you going?
Just need some air. Go to sleep, baby.
6 months. Every single night. Between 1 a.m. and 1:30 a.m. He went to that room, locked the door, and came back 30 minutes later, like nothing had happened. And she who had always trusted him, who had built her peace on the foundation of what they were to each other, she had started to build something else instead. In the dark, in the silence, in the space between 1 a.m. and 1:30 a.m., she had started to build a case.
Not tonight. You look terrible. What's wrong? Nothing.
Ngozi, yes?
If your husband started locking himself in a room every night at 1 a.m. for 6 months pair, what would you think?
6 months. Every night, exactly 1 a.m., 30 minutes. Then he comes back like nothing happened. Have you asked him? He says he can't sleep. He says he doesn't want to wake me. And you believe him?
I don't know what I believe anymore.
There's only one way to stop not knowing, Ngozi. You already know what you need to do.
Tonight. Okay. What are you doing in there? What is that? It's not that. Then what is it?
You're up early.
Couldn't sleep.
Ngozi,
Yes.
is everything all right?
I don't know yet.
I'll be ready in an hour.
She had gone to that keyhole expecting to find the worst. She had found something she could not name. And the not naming of it, the space between what she saw and what she did not yet understand, was a different kind of torment. One that would not let her rest until she knew the truth. All of it. Ngozi went to work that morning and did not absorb a single word of her 9 a.m. meeting. She sat in the conference room and nodded at the right moments and wrote things on her notepad that meant nothing. Loops and lines and the word "why" written 3 times in the margin without her realizing it. She kept seeing his shoulders, the way they moved when he cried. Because that was what she had seen. She was certain of it now in the daylight. Not a video call, not a secret conversation, not the face of a man doing something shameful in the dark. She had seen a man sitting alone with headphones, bent forward, crying quietly in a chair. The way men cry when they have decided the world is not allowed to see them do it. That image refused to leave her. She had spent 6 months building a case against her husband in the privacy of her own mind. She had imagined other women. She had imagined lies. She had imagined the specific kind of betrayal that dismantles a marriage from the inside while everything on the outside still looks intact. She had not imagined this. A man in the dark, crying alone. What was he listening to? That was the question that would not stop. Not who, not why he was hiding it, but what? What could a person listen to in the dark at 1 a.m. that would make them cry like that? Quietly, privately, with the discipline of someone who had been doing it for a long time. She left work at lunch and drove home. The spare room door was unlocked during the day. Ngozi had never paid it much attention before. It was a storage room, mostly. Boxes, an old exercise bike Segun had bought, with genuine intentions, shelves of things they did not use, but could not quite throw away. She stood in the doorway now and looked at it, in daylight. The chair was there, positioned in the center of the room, not against the wall, not near the window. In the center, facing nothing in particular. A chair placed deliberately by someone who intended to sit in it and wanted no distractions. She walked to it slowly. She sat in it. She looked at what the chair faced from this position. Nothing. A blank section of wall. Bare. No mirror. No picture. Nothing. Just wall. She looked down at the floor, in front of the chair. There was a faint mark, the kind left by feet resting in the same position repeatedly, over many months. 2 small worn patches in the carpet. He had sat here many times. She looked around the room carefully. Nothing else was disturbed. No second phone, no documents, no evidence of any kind, except on the small side table beside the chair, a charging cable. For the large, over-ear headphones she had given him 2 Christmases ago. She picked up the cable and held it in her hand for a moment. Then she put it back exactly where she had found it. And she went to wait. She asked him that evening, not dramatically, not with tears or accusations. She had decided, somewhere between leaving work and driving home and sitting in that chair, that whatever was happening in that room, Segun was not her enemy. The man she had seen through that keyhole was not a man doing something shameful. He was a man in pain, and pain in a marriage belonged to both of them. She waited until after dinner, until the plates were cleared and the kitchen was clean, and they were sitting together in the living room in the ordinary quiet of a weeknight. She turned to him. "Segun," she said, "I need you to tell me about the spare room." He looked at her. His expression did not collapse or harden. It did something more complicated. It settled, like a man who had been waiting for a question and had long since decided how to answer it when it finally came. "How long have you known?" he asked quietly. 6 months of suspecting," she said. "One night of knowing something is there." He nodded slowly. He looked at his hands. "I should have told you," he said. "Yes," she said, "you should have." A long silence. The television was off. The house was very quiet. "I don't know how to explain it," he said, without it sounding like something it isn't. "Try," she said simply. He looked up at her, and for the first time in 6 months, Ngozi saw in her husband's eyes the thing that had been hidden behind the warmth and the normalcy and the eggs in the morning and the arm around her on the couch. She saw how afraid he had been. Not of her, not of anything she could have named. Afraid of losing her. Still, even now, even after she had survived, he told her that night all of it. 14 months ago, Ngozi had gone into surgery for a condition the doctors had caught early. Early enough that the outcome was good, the prognosis clear. The surgery considered routine by everyone in that hospital, except the man sitting in the waiting room who had not eaten in 18 hours and whose hands had not stopped shaking since the moment she went through the theater doors. She had known he was frightened. She had seen it. But Segun had a particular quality. The quality of a man who believes his fear is not useful to the people he loves. And so he manages it privately, out of sight, so that his fear does not become their burden. What Ngozi had not known was that the night before her surgery, when she thought he had gone to get water and came back after 20 minutes, she had left him a voice note. She did not remember leaving it. She had been on medication. She had been tired. She had been in the way a person sometimes is the night before something large and uncertain, quietly brave, in a way that did not announce itself. She had left him a voice note that said, "I love you. I am not afraid. And whatever happens tomorrow, you gave me more happiness than I knew how to ask for. I just wanted you to know that, in case the morning is too busy for me to say it properly." He had not played it until after the surgery, when she was in recovery, when the doctor had come out and said the words that unfolded the fist that had been sitting in his chest for 2 days. He had sat in a hospital corridor and played it. And then he had saved it. And 6 months later, when the fear had not fully left, when the middle of the night sometimes brought it back in full force, when he would lie beside her, listening to her breathe, and feel the weight of how close it had all come. He had started going to the spare room, to sit in the dark, to play her voice, to hear her say, "I am not afraid," to remind himself that she was still here, that the worst had not happened, that he was allowed to breathe. He had been doing it every night for 6 months. He had never told her because he looked at her now with the exhausted eyes of a man who has been holding something very carefully for a very long time. He did not want her to know how afraid he still was. He did not want her to feel like she needed to manage his fear on top of everything else she had been through. "I didn't want it to become your weight," he said quietly. "It was mine. I just needed somewhere to put it down for 30 minutes every night." Ngozi looked at her husband for a long time without speaking. She thought about 6 months of a story she had been writing in her head. A dark story, a story of betrayal and secrets, and a marriage quietly coming apart from the inside. 6 months of imagining the worst, while the truth was 30 feet down the corridor, in a chair, listening to her own voice, crying quietly, and choosing every single night to come back to bed and be present for her. She did not speak for a moment. When she did, her voice was steady. "Play it for me," she said. He played it. They sat side by side on the spare room floor. Not in the chair, on the floor, because that felt right. Felt like the right level for what they were doing. And he played it from his phone through the large headphones held between them so both could hear. Her own voice filled the space. "I love you. I am not afraid. And whatever happens tomorrow, you gave me more happiness than I knew how to ask for. I just wanted you to know that in case the morning is too busy for me to say it properly." 14 seconds. Ngozi sat very still while her own voice played. She did not remember recording it. She did not remember the exact moment or the exact words, but she recognized the truth in it. The particular calm of a person who has simplified everything down to what matters. When it finished, neither of them spoke. Segun was looking at the wall. The same blank wall the chair faced. She understood now why there was nothing on it. He was not looking at the wall. He was listening. The wall was just where his eyes went when his ears were carrying everything. She reached over and took his hand. He looked down at their joined hands. Then he looked at her. And the thing that had been sitting in his eyes for 6 months, the fear, the careful management of it, the weight of carrying something private inside a marriage built on shared things. She watched it begin slowly to release. They did not say very much after that. There are moments in a marriage that do not need language. Moments where the words that exist are not large enough for what is being felt. And so the two people simply sit with it together, side by side, in the quiet, letting the thing that has been between them settle into its true shape. Ngozi and Segun sat on the floor of the spare room for a long time. At some point she leaned her head against his shoulder. At some point, he rested his cheek against the top of her head. The room was dark. The charging cable for the headphones sat on the side table. The worn patches in the carpet were visible in the low light, if you knew where to look. She looked at those worn patches and thought about 6 months of nights, about a man rising carefully so as not to wake her, about bare feet on cold tile, about the discipline of a person who has decided that his fear is his to carry and not hers to manage. She thought about what love looked like when it chose silence, not out of deception, but out of protection. She thought about how close she had come, how many times she had almost confronted him, almost accused him, almost allowed the story in her head to become louder than the truth 30 feet away in a chair. She thought, what if I had never looked through that keyhole? What if she had continued carrying the wrong story until it became too heavy to put down? She held his hand tighter. He held hers back. The house was quiet around them. everything in it unlocked, everything exactly as it had always been. The next morning was different, not dramatically, not in the way of movie mornings, resolved expressions and speeches over breakfast. Real healing is quieter than that. It moves in small increments. It shows up in details. It showed up in the fact that when Ngozi woke, Segun was still in bed beside her. Not because he had stopped going to the spare room. That would take time. They both understood that. But because it was 6 a.m., and he had come back, and he had stayed, and he was asleep with his arm across her side, and his breathing was even in a way she had not heard it in months. She lay still and listened to him breathe. She thought about the voice note, 14 seconds of her own voice from the night before a surgery she barely remembered being afraid of. She had not been performing bravery that night. She had simply, in the stripped-down way of a person too tired for pretending, told him the truth. She had not known he would keep it. She had not known it would become the thing he returned to in the dark. She had not known that those 14 seconds would be the thing holding her husband together at 1 a.m. for 6 months, while she slept 20 feet away, completely unaware. There is a particular feeling that comes with understanding the full depth of how someone loves you. It is not simple. It does not feel the way you might expect. It is heavy and light at the same time. It makes the ordinary details of a life, a coffee mug, a breakfast plate, a chair in a spare room with worn patches in the carpet, feel suddenly weighted with meaning they were carrying all along without your knowledge. Ngozi felt that feeling lying in bed that morning, listening to her husband breathe. She stayed very still and let it sit with her. In the weeks that followed, things changed in ways that were small enough to miss if you were not paying attention. Segun told her one morning that he had spoken to someone, a counselor, not because anything was wrong in the conventional sense, but because he had recognized in himself the particular pattern of a man who manages fear alone until it becomes a nightly ritual, and he thought it might be useful to have somewhere to put it that was not a locked room at 1 a.m. Ngozi listened to him tell her this and felt something in her chest expand quietly. He had made that decision himself. She had not asked him to. She had not suggested it. He had simply, in the aftermath of being known, of having the locked room opened not by force but by honesty, decided that the wait deserved a better home. She told him the same week that she would like to hear the voice note again, not in the spare room, at the kitchen table, in the morning, over coffee. He played it. She listened to her own voice, and this time she remembered the feeling of the night she had recorded it. The simplicity of it, the way fear had quieted into something clear and unhurried. She remembered thinking, if he is afraid tomorrow, I want him to have something from me that is not afraid. She had not known, recording it, that she was giving him something he would carry for more than a year. She looked at him across the table when it finished. He was watching her with the specific attention of a man who is storing something for later. I didn't know I was that brave, she said. He smiled. The real one, the one that reached his eyes and stayed there. I did, he said simply. Ngozi thought about the keyhole for a long time after that night. Not with regret. She did not regret looking. Looking had been the beginning of the truth. But she thought about what the keyhole had shown her versus what she had been afraid of finding. and the distance between those two things felt like something worth keeping. She had pressed her eye to that keyhole carrying 6 months of fear. 6 months of a story she had written without enough information. A story with a villain, a betrayal, a marriage quietly ending. She had gone to that door, ready to confirm the worst. And what she found was a man in the dark, bent over headphones, crying quietly over the voice of the woman he loved. She thought about how easily the story could have ended differently. How many marriages end, not because of what is true, but because of what is imagined in the silence. How many people carry a wrong story for so long that it becomes the only story, until the real one no longer has room to breathe. She thought about what Segun had done, not the locked room. That part she understood now, but the choice to carry his fear alone out of love. To show up every morning with eggs and warmth and an arm around her on the couch while managing in private the thing that came for him at night. She thought, that is also a kind of devotion. The quiet kind. The kind that does not announce itself. And she thought, I almost turned it into a crime. There is a kind of wisdom that can only be earned the hard way, through the specific terror of almost losing something important, because you trusted your fear more than your knowledge. Ngozi had learned it on a cold corridor floor, sliding down a door frame in the dark, her legs shaking with what she had just understood. She carried that wisdom carefully after that, like something valuable, like something that had cost enough to deserve keeping. A year after the night she looked through the keyhole, Ngozi and Segun sat on their small back veranda on a Sunday evening, watching the sky move from orange to dark. He had stopped going to the spare room at 1 a.m. Not immediately. It had taken several months, the counselor, and the gradual loosening of a fear that had wrapped itself tightly around his nightly routine. But eventually, the visits became occasional, then rare. Then 1 week, he realized he had not gone at all. And the week after that, he realized he did not need to. The voice note was still on his phone. He had not deleted it. He did not think he ever would. But it had moved from something he needed every night to something he kept the way you keep a letter from someone you love. Not to read daily, but to know it exists. To know it is there. Ngozi knew this because he had told her. Because after the night in the spare room, they had built a new habit between them. The habit of saying the things that mattered before the silence had a chance to grow into something with a life of its own. It was not always easy. Old patterns do not disappear simply because you have seen through them. But they were attentive to it. They caught the silence when it started. They chose the conversation over the closed door. She looked at him on the veranda, in the last of the orange light. He was looking at the sky. His face was relaxed in a way she had not seen it fully relaxed in a very long time. "What are you thinking?" she asked. He turned to look at her. He smiled slowly, unhurried, warm, the kind of smile that has been earned. "That I am not afraid," he said. She recognized her own words from 14 seconds of voice note recorded more than 2 years ago in a hospital room on the night before a surgery. She recognized them and felt them land somewhere new. She leaned her head on his shoulder. The sky went dark above them. The stars came out, one at a time, and the house behind them was quiet, all its rooms unlocked, all its doors open, nothing inside it that needed to be carried alone in the dark anymore. There are things your silence protects, and things your silence slowly destroys. The hardest wisdom in love the kind you only earn by almost losing something, is learning which is which before it is too late. Segun locked the door to protect the woman he loved from the weight of his fear. Ngozi pressed her eye to a keyhole, expecting betrayal, and found devotion instead. Neither of them was wrong in what they wanted. Safety, presence, the protection of something precious. They were only wrong in believing that love meant carrying the hard things alone. The door between two people does not always mean what you think it means. Sometimes it is hiding shame. Sometimes it is hiding a slow destruction. The next story that appears on your screen is even deeper. Watch that. Yes, that. And I'll see you in the next one, and hey, don't forget to leave us a comment.
Pack your things. A small bag. You are leaving this house tonight.
Mama, has something happened to Emeka?
Nothing has happened to my son. You are a bad influence in this house. Without Emeka here, you have no right to remain.